nothing, that's the time to feel alive. I'm an animal. Everything is tangible, easily programmable. I need all of the resources and valuables. The appetite of Hannibal, you know the vocals flammable. You might not want to stand too close, they keep you in survival mode. The bottom of the totem pole, this is the human holocaust. Some of us, we chose to fall, some of us don't know it all. Trying to find my way home, I'm picking up the phone to call. Tell me what the mission is, I gotta master all my flaws. Tell us how you walk the walk, you know you never learn to crawl. Look at the reflection in the mirror, getting close to God. You know they say the seat of the soul is right behind the eyes.
Don't.
Good evening, everyone. This is Don't Talk at Me, Talk to Me, the podcast that brings real problems with real solutions. So today we're talking about survival mode. It's a continuation of last week. Everyone present is Robin, our producer.
Hey.
We have A1 beside me.
How you doing?
Brother A1. And Brother Dwayne at the end. And I am Brother Jeff. You want to jump in, A1?
Introduce yourself and tell me.
My name is A1. I'm 17 years old. I grew up on the west side of Detroit, and I'm a senior in high school.
Wonderful.
What's up? Dwayne?
So I'm Dwayne. I am a life coach, a mental health therapist, and yeah, just here to make sure that I can gift the people with the tools that they need to keep moving forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. And with that being said, the topic is survival mode. So I want to ask the life coach, what would your definition of survival mode be, or what is the clinical definition, or both of them?
Okay. I would say the survival mode is doing those things necessary for you to make sure that you reach whatever your goal is. And sometimes that just literally means living moment to moment. But doing whatever it is for you to reach your goal for you to live.
That's good.
Is there a clinical definition to it?
Pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same. In survival mode, how do you see that as a race of people, or as in poverty, in a poverty lifestyle? How do you see survival mode playing a role?
Well, you have the good and the bad of that. The bad of it is, for a great majority of us, it is both institutionalization as well as miseducation. And we just stay in the same perpetual cycle, generation to generation. My mama did it this way, my daddy did it this way, the church did it this way. This is what we know to do. Even though it may seem like we're doing it differently as times have changed, but we still do the same thing over and over again. Now that's the bad way. The good way is, yeah, I see that. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to break free from that. I'm going to take all the hits and the blows. I'm going to take all of the criticisms, the name calling, the ostracizing. I'm going to take all of that because I know that there's something better out there. So that's what I'm going to do. And you do that by any means necessary, as scary as that may be.
Well, let me just ask this. So what about the people that's doing it because it's working, or they think that it's working? How does that factor in?
That's that institutionalization.
Okay.
You know, not knowing any better, or knowing that there's something on the other side, but being too fearful to stretch out for it. So you stay in your place of
Comfort. Okay, gotcha.
Break down institutionalization.
Institutionalization is the persistent belief that is fed to an individual, absent of every other option. In other words, you're only being told what the person in control or the system in control wants you to believe, and not allowing you to have any other option to see it from a different perspective.
So it's more like a form of propaganda.
Yes.
Okay, got you. That's interesting.
Don't talk at me, talk to me podcast. Break it down where everybody can understand. Don't give me no big word. What do you think about that, A1?
Survival mode.
Yeah.
I got my own definition of survival mode. When it comes to survival mode, I like to explain it as like you against anybody that's against you, and it's just you're out here by yourself surviving. And I've been doing that for the I could say that I've been doing that for the past 3 years. I've been in survival mode. Past 3 years. Past 3 years I've been more independent and moved out of my parents' house and everything, and I jumped into survival mode at a young age. I'd say that I jumped in at a very young age, and trust me, survival mode it get a little difficult, get a little lonely, but more to it, you just gotta keep your prayers up and everything, and it gets difficult. It gets difficult. There's gonna be some rainy days and everything, but at the end of the day, yeah, my definition of survival mode is you against everything and everyone, and you just taking care of yourself and more independent, and that's more like my definition of survival mode.
Do you think there's a lot of young people such as yourself that's in survival mode?
I actually do agree. Yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of young people in survival mode, especially kids on the streets, kids that have no parents or didn't grow up with no mom or dad. Definitely seen it happen. Seen kids that living on the streets, living with their friend's house, living at their friend's mom's house, living at cousin's house by themselves, working or in the streets. Definitely a lot of kids in the survival mode. I could say that.
What do we say as older adults that's hearing young people say survival is like the norm now? Survival mode is the norm. What do you guys think on that? Is survival mode the norm?
Well, everybody's trying to survive in some shape, form, or fashion.
I agree with that.
I have had to be in survival mode. Living here, sleeping in my truck, sleeping in the car, sleeping on the girlfriend's couch or whatever. Whatever it takes to get it done. But I was working, so that was kind of helpful, but I had to do what I had to do to make sure that I maintain the job. Because once the job is gone, everything else is kind of,
hopeless.
Put you in the nut. Yeah,
you become hopeless. I could agree with that. I could agree. With that. Keeps you distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think survival mode, Coach, has anything to do with the crime that's out here?
Absolutely not. It depends. It really depends on your situation.
Yeah,
Depends on the person and what situation he's in. There's a lot of people. There's people, like I said, survival mode in the streets. There's kids in survival mode as a homeless.
So you don't think that a lot of people that's in survival mode sell drugs or hustle or hit licks? Or...
Yeah, some do. Not all. Some do.
You got to be at a real low point to really go. You got crime, then you got hard time. If you go to sticking people up, you done crossed over.
Yeah, there ain't no survival mode in that. You get locked up, it's just you and yourself.
Yeah,
in that cell.
And then we have to also understand that any form of survival mode is a choice. And once you make that choice, then you will walk the path of the choice that you have made.
That's true.
Oftentimes, when we are in survival mode, we become blinded. We become blinded to only what we want, how we see it, how we think it's going to be accomplished. And that's the only road we stay on. We don't make time to stop, to breathe, to educate ourselves as to other options, to seek counsel from outside of our norm circle, maybe the circle of the people who I aspire to be. We don't take or make that time to see if there's a different way. So sometimes when we make those survival choices, oftentimes we walk a path of our own destruction because we don't choose to add those other components in.
So my question again, I'm asking because I kind of like was wondering survival mode, like people that I know that is in survival mode, they do steal, they do hit licks, they do crime. Um, I know a lot. My daughter and them have a restaurant in the inner city, and survival mode guys come in. They might, in survival mode. A lot of them pick up marijuana and smoke marijuana. A lot of them do the syrup, because as you can always get that from any friend or anybody.
Right.
And when you're out in the streets, but then they'll come in and survival mode tell them they may have pocket full of money, but survival mode tell them steal a cookie.
That's
Take
true.
something, take
That's
that.
true.
So I think survival mode does cause you to do, as A1 said, think about how you gonna survive, you and only you, and that can give you sticky fingers or
You can get your hands dirty.
get your hands dirty. Yeah.
But I would argue the point that again that's a part of that institutionalized belief because when a person makes a decision that I'm going to steal, there is like you see in the movies slow motion where you have an opportunity to make another decision.
Correct.
Oftentimes we say this is the easier choice
Correct.
Choice of the two.
of how for me to get what I need. So I'm just gonna go the easy route instead of putting in time and investment in myself, having respect for myself and those around me to make another choice.
Well, a lot of times I don't think, especially at a young age, such as A1 was, he said, so around 13 or 14, you can
Around 15, 14.
Yeah, that's still relatively young. So, you trying to eat.
Yeah.
You trying to figure out where you gonna see. You trying to figure it out and on the fly. You know what I mean? So it's a good thing he didn't turn to no crime.
Yes.
But it's real, and don't nobody realize it till it sound good when our parents give us the ultimatum. I don't know what your situation is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you either buy my rules or you get out.
That's
and
true.
And people be like, I'm ready to go try this. But once you get out there trying it, now you swimming for the air.
Yeah, it's not easy.
You know what
It's
I'm
not
saying?
easy. It's not easy.
It's not always as easy as we think it is.
I want to chime in for a minute. I know I usually just do the engineering and I don't really talk too much.
Okay, Rico.
But as far as survival mode is not always a negative.
No, I'm not.
Absolutely.
I've been on my own at a young age, and I first was in the system in juvenile when I was like 11 when I caught my first situation, but now I was committed to the state. So it's a level of survival mode in there, or also in prison. I did 12 years straight in prison. In survival mode in prison, I wasn't doing anything negative, but doing something like far as taking a little money that you got, buying a bunch of store products and selling them to different people, giving them 2 noodles, they give you 3 back when store come.
Yep.
Or back when I first was in there, stamps was like money. So we would sell stuff for the stamps and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's like, plus we also help, like when people come in and they didn't have no money, we would give them care packages ourselves, give them food and stuff. So we was still giving back. So being in survival mode, sometimes basically we all out here surviving. Even if you got a job working 9 to 5 to
still
pay your
trying to
bills,
survive.
it's
That's
still
true.
a form of survival mode.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Most definitely.
I feel like when it comes to what she mentioned, like when kids at a young age, or it don't really matter who you are when you out here selling or slanging or whatever you want to call it. I feel like it really starts like it's either like it's hard for you to get a good paying job, or you're a convicted felon, because 9 times out of 10, if you can't get a good paying job, some people would really choose going into the street than going and putting that effort and applying applications and getting a stable job and working a 9 to 5. No, some people choose going in the streets, getting that money. It's fast money.
Fast money.
Fast money. You want that fast money because there's situations, depending on your situation. You could be lonely. You could be out here starving. You're willing to do whatever you want, whatever it is, to get that money because you're in survival mode.
So, in your experience, in your environment, what are the young people doing in survival mode?
Some of the young people, like I could speak on, like
Tricking?
they are here tricking. Yeah, I could say that, and gang banging, drink, like out here partying, and they are selling weed, selling pills and everything. Like most of them young men in the city are like they're on the wrong path. They're on the wrong path. Some of them are coming like as a how do I say it? Some of them used to be a football player, good football players. Some of them were football players, basketball players, and anything. Just decided to drop that football, drop that basketball, and hop right in the street. Some of them got talents, special talents that they're physical of having, and people don't have that talent. Like me, I don't know how to play basketball, and some of the guys that I know, like they're good at playing basketball. They could make it to the NBA. They could make it to. They can make their dream come true, but they don't want to. They're around the wrong group and around the wrong people, and decided to jump right into the streets.
And just to clarify something, he mentioned about gangs. A lot of people don't understand it, but a lot of times people join gangs for a support system that don't have a support system.
That's true.
So that's what he was talking about when he, said gangs and
Exactly.
what he was doing.
Exactly.
But I'm from the streets. I was in gangs. I'm in a gang. GDs. I was been to prison, so I know about survival mode. My main focus has always been trying to get $1 or $2 in my pocket. And
like
I
most
was-
young people.
yeah, like most young people, I was a hustler. I ran stores and skins, and when I was incarcerated, and like Rico said, I was selling the quarter packs of cigarettes when they had them, or making fudge, or making taffy, and just all these special, like you were saying about doing the cookbook.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, we want to try some of them dudes, some of them hookups.
Yeah,
Which I was eating
and
up
they
in
be
prison.
good. You know what I'm saying? Making suckers, just whatever. Like
Laffy
you said,
Taffies.
yeah, Laffy
Yeah.
Taffy. To survive, to make an extra few cents so you can eat good at night.
So
Yeah.
you guys think trauma comes with survival mode?
Yeah.
Yeah, most
definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
9
most
times out of
definitely.
10.
It's
Kira,
Siamese twins. You
It's
can't
it's
have
like
one
a-
without the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 90%. 90% come from trauma. The other 10 is on other things.
as a whole, how do you think that affect inner city of Detroit? How you think survival mode?
More violence creates more violence, especially the youth my age. More violence, a lot of gang shootouts, a lot of gang beefs, making diss songs, hopping on track, going slide on the ops and all that. Yeah, it really affects the city.
Yeah.
What about anger?
Anger, that's another thing.
One thing that I used to stick people up, and I remember I was no, seriously. Those were my first.
It's just the way you said it.
Yeah. And you know, I had to really realize that like eventually you're gonna run into the person that don't want to give that stuff up. And I realized that it's easy to catch a murder case robbing people.
That's true.
So, you know, me, I felt that it was better to sell drugs because now I don't have to do that because I'm not really forcing nobody to buy the drugs, and the money doubled itself at least.
Yeah.
You can make more, but I'm just using that as an example. And so I had got away from that because I was like, what am I gonna do when I run into the person that don't want to get their stuff up? You know.
Yeah.
So that's what made me. And then right before I came home, I had to give everything up because I wanted a better life. Especially once you sit in there, you know, a couple decades, you done gave them 30 years of your life, and you sitting in behind the prison walls, and, you know, you losing everybody. That's what really got me. Because I lost like 18 immediate family members, you know, not counting friends and other family members and relatives, you know.
What type of support system did you have when you came home from prison?
I was surprised I had a support system, really, because, you know, like my mother's two brothers were still living. I had another uncle that was living. And, you know, all of them had, here's the thing. I wasn't realizing that I'm still young, but they're old and they're getting older. So that's what I lost sight of while I was incarcerated. So I expect them to still be young. And, you know, my one uncle, he was on the walker. My other two uncles, my one uncle was getting dementia. And so they was deteriorating, but God blessed me to be able to see them before they passed. You know, so that's how I was. You know, I was just lost it till brother pulled me to the side and had to tell me it was a brother that was doing like YNX, that was doing a life sentence. He said, bro, you up here messing around, you got a chance to go home and I can't go home. And, you know, that's when, because I was one of the guys that said, one day they got to let me go because I was rebellious. You know, I was fighting them in the courts. And, you know, I'm talking about the Michigan Department of Corrections. So I was always standing up for myself, standing up for others, you know. So that's what really kind of increased my time in there. And so when he said that, I put everything to the side and got myself together mentally and came on out. Because I was just into, you know, one of these days y'all going to let me go. And he said, what they going to do, just get tired and let you go? And that turned on the light for me, you know?
Yeah, the reason why I asked because we talking about survival mode. In prison, I really stayed out of trouble.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? I stayed out of trouble for the most part. I did a lot of college classes and things of that nature, drama classes, wrote a couple of plays, poetry books, stayed
That's what's up.
in the band playing for different
Oh, the
different,
music rooms. Yeah,
but
I did.
But I did find myself going up north and a few things happened. There was a lot of gang stuff going on up there. And I was the coordinator, so it was like when certain things going on.
Were you in Jackson?
I was a bunch of I did 12 years straight. But when I was up north, that's way past Jackson. I was in Bergamax,
I was up there.
Marquette, Ojibwe. I was in all different places. But the reason why I asked about support system, because when I came home, I would say having the knowledge of self is something that saved me. But at the same time, when I first came home, I was in survival mode. I lost my mother. I probably was only locked up maybe like a year and a half. Then I lost my father maybe a year after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I didn't have no grandparents, no parents, none of that stuff when I came home. So that's another form of survival mode. I had children that came from out of town, and I ain't gonna deny them. They came to live with me as soon as I came home, so it was a lot of responsibility on my back. I went to McDonald's, IHOP, Burger King, Taco Bell, all these different places, car washes. Nobody was hiring me. So then I end up, I was doing more illegal stuff on parole than I was when I got off of parole. You know what I'm saying? I was working in bars. First of all, my curfew,
Bouncing.
my curfew. I started with some brothers though, doing security for different artists and stuff that was coming to town. But then I started working at bars and clubs and stuff. And then I started DJing in there. But I don't supposed to be in no club.
Right.
That's true.
I'm supposed to be in the house at 11 o'clock.
Right.
I'm bouncing. I don't know what these guys got, so now I got a weapon on me. You know what I'm saying? Then ways to try to make a little extra money because I got these teenage kids that's happy to get their father home and they came. Then I had a child on the way. So I ended up, while I'm in the club, selling a little weed and stuff in the clubs and stuff like that. You know, not saying it was the right thing, but sometimes when you're in
Right.
survival
I got
mode,
you.
Survival
Surviving. Yeah, you
so
doing
I
what you
wasn't
got
out
to do.
there robbing people and doing different stuff like that, but it's still, I was in a position, if I would have got caught up being in those bars and clubs alone, that could have sent me right back to prison.
Well, in my case, when everybody was gone, my biggest supporter would be my wife.
Yeah.
Cause I met her like 5 months, between 4 and 5 months when I got out. And the thing was, I had came out with all the right intentions, which I did. I was like, I'm gonna try to get a job, but I was really discouraged like the first 90 days because it took me about 3 months to get the first job. And the first job I got was the first time I ever had a job with benefits. Then I messed around and got the roofing job in the union. So, and she was talking to me, encouraging me, something gonna break. Don't worry about it. Just keep trying. I was like, you put in a lot of applications. I educated myself while I was in there. I wasn't just on no knucklehead stuff while I was in there. Cause, like you said, we in survival mode to navigate around the prison system. One of the things I used to always say, I want to come out the way that I went in with all my faculties intact. So you in survival mode yourself, you know what I'm saying? And I earned the respect of the guys that I was around because of the attitude and the position that I took against the administration, catches assaults on police, cases and stuff. So I was most definitely that guy because my mindset was, I live here, they're just visiting for 8 hours and they ain't just gonna come in and push anything on me because I was at Almax when they was jumping on prisoners. I was at Berger when they killed Animal. I done seen these things, witnessed them. So I was trying to make sure that I didn't become a victim of my circumstance.
Coach Wayne, what would you say to clients that you may have in survival mode?
I was really in tune in the dialogue because what was put out there was, what is the support system? And oftentimes, what we don't understand is when we're in survival mode, there's a shield that we build around us.
That's true.
That even though we look for support, we shield ourselves with the understanding that it's just me. Mama, them, whoever else, okay, I see you, I appreciate you. But something can happen in the blink and you're not going to be there. It's just me. And that is always reverberating day in, day out. And it takes a long time to release yourself from that self-enclosed prison. Oftentimes what we don't understand is, in order for people to go into survival mode, we talk about trauma, but there's definitely a mental health component to that often starts with some form of hurt or rejection that then turns into anger, that then turns into rage, that then turns into vengeance, that then turns into by any means necessary. You can't get out of survival mode until you address each and every one of those levels. And sometimes that takes decades,
Yeah.
depending on how it started in the first place.
Yeah, I know I left home as at an early teenager because of hurt and pain, and then it led to all of those steps that you just said, and then you get to a point where, like you said, you're gonna get it by any means necessary within your moral parameters. You know what I'm saying? I knew I wasn't gonna stick up nobody. I knew I wasn't gonna trick. You know what I'm saying? I knew I was good in sales. So that led me, but it's survival mode. And when you looking at you out here and you living from friend to friend or those type of things, in some people mindsets, a paycheck is gonna be the hardest way because you gotta wait 2 weeks opposed to I could do it in a day. You know what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying. So you're right. It is a form of mental because you've been broken. When you have to leave your household on the people that's supposed to have you, it breaks you. And so you go into like you said, you go into survival mode.
I want to take the opportunity to flip this for a minute because we're talking about survival where you have to go out. But there's also a survival where you're trapped inside. At 8 years old, my mother had a mental health episode that forced me to stop being an 8-year-old. I had 2 siblings under me. I now became the caregiver for my mother and my 2 siblings. I did not stop being a caregiver until my mother left this world 5 years ago. And though I was at different levels at different times,
You sure?
there still was this, I gotta take care of people. I gotta please people. I gotta make sure X, Y, and Z is done. No matter how I'm feeling, what I need to do, I have to make sure all these other things done because there's nobody else gonna do it but me. That's also survival.
Yeah.
That is because my daughter, being the oldest of her siblings, she had to be the mother to her siblings. And I really noticed that when I spent the Thanksgiving with her a couple of years ago, and how they just, she provided everything. Her mother was there. This was the first time her mother and father was together that she probably remembered. I was down there, and I'm watching how she interact with her siblings, because I never seen her, but she's the mother sister. If that's y'all understand,
Yeah.
The leader of the pack.
Definitely,
yeah, she's
definitely.
the leader of the pack. So I get that. I didn't never really have to worry about that being the only child, but I was really surprised when I came home because I was going through the tough love phase by my family. Oh, you don't want to come home. You must, they throwing cracks at me. You must got you a boyfriend in there or something. All this all crazy stuff. But
People say that.
yeah, cause why else would I be in there as long? But they ain't understanding what I got to go through in there, or standing up for my rights, or what I felt was right. Fighting for a cause that wasn't nobody else fighting for. Whether the police was trying to take this from me, or those type of causes. The phone system, they trying to put this on the phone system. They taking the store away. They taking the clothes away. So, I was instrumental in, those causes. So, because I always been one to fight for myself. Then I'm fighting for other people. Like the guy that they killed, they used to come around with his food tray, take his food tray. I'm up there, going off on the police. They come take my food tray. He laughing at me. So, and then when they killed him, I'm the one who showed up for his family and made sure that they knew that he was killed. And, it wasn't like they was trying to play like they had nothing to do with it.
So you
Even
said-
though I didn't like it.
So the healing process can take decades.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And that's only if you are willing to acknowledge
Yeah, you
something
got
ain't
to.
right. Something ain't right with me specifically. I keep doing this. I can't keep anybody in my life, whether it's a partner, a spouse, a child. I keep repeating the same cycle, no matter how far I get, or I'll get to a certain point, and now I done did something that I knew I probably shouldn't have did. That I done told myself 1,000 times I wasn't going to do, and now I done fell 10 steps back.
So you said even acknowledging. What would be some steps to even acknowledge that there may be a issue going on?
I think the first step is setting in your mind you're not perfect. That you need to do a self-evaluation every 90 days, every 6 months, every year at your birthday. Okay, what did I do this year leading up to my birthday that worked? What did I do that didn't work?
Clout.
What do I need to change? Who do I need to get rid of?
That's true. Accomplishment.
Because a lot of times what we do is we encase our trauma in the people that we're around, in the things we put in our homes, in the clothes that we wear, in the music and the entertainment that we engage in. Sometimes we encapsulate our trauma to continue that survival mode behavior without understanding, this may not be the best thing for me.
And support is good because, like, if I didn't think that, by the way, they was tough loving me, that they was gonna come back around, but they most definitely came back around, and that's good because it's easy to get sidetracked or not acknowledge that you even have a problem, especially for men. I was messed up.
I have a question.
Surviving.
Did you know that? When did you realize that it was tough love that they were giving you?
It seemed probably when everybody started fading, I felt like I couldn't trust nobody out here. I felt like I had abandonment issues. And I didn't want to acknowledge that, but and then I started thinking about what people were saying to me. But once I came home, the love was there. I was greeted like the prodigal, so that was the good thing with me. But a lot of people don't have that. Right. And then me, my wife, that just made everything it was just like the seal was put on, because she was there, lead me through spiritually as well. Cause you got to, I think you got to have a balance.
You have to.
You know what I'm saying? You most definitely got to have a balance. So that helped me. Cause I was so messed up. If Bobby had to die, I'd have came out here probably tried to be a hitman. Cause you ain't got nobody. You think you ain't got nobody to support you and be in your corner. You have a tendency to go all over the place. Cause you in survival mode.
Definitely.
Is it hard to be vulnerable or trust people in survival mode?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Especially when you've been backstabbed, hurt, backdoored especially by your own family. That starts it all. That really starts it all.
I think it's levels to it, though.
It's levels to it, definitely.
I think sometimes in survival mode, sometimes it could come from it's all mental, though. It's the way that you view life. It could be the way that you learned watching and observing, and it could be things that you are taught. That's just like if you was in the wilderness and then people in tribes, it might not necessarily be a trauma that happened to them, but they're out there hunting the animals and different stuff to feed the family. Some people just look at it as the man of the house or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? You're put in a position that you're going to do what it takes to feed your family. So it's levels of trauma, but it is sometimes it's just the mental way that you view things. And then a lot of times when the men were taken out of the households,
Yeah.
that's when the women, it kicked in for
For
them.
them, they had to be the man and the women.
Yeah.
You know.
But oftentimes in those situations, there's a social norm that says, okay, when this happens, it's almost expected. It's almost like, okay, this is my time to go out and learn, put my own mark on the world, do whatever I have to do to fit those shoes of manhood. For a lot of individuals, that wasn't the case. For a lot of individuals, it was like we talked about, with the single parent household, or the absent father that would just pop in, pop out, that did not give a set example. When we talk about the rejection, when we talk about not feeling wanted, not feeling heard, seen, or valued as a man, as a boy, as the male, that's where we start making our decisions from. Because I'm enjoying this game, because now y'all gonna give me what I need, but I'm gonna follow you down whatever path. I'm gonna get with this woman over here, even though she's not the best choice, but she's giving me what I need, without understanding that there is another option. And oftentimes, unfortunately, our families back up those choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
I want to add another layer to it. I'm gonna use my own self. Like, I experienced so many things in life though, and sometimes it's choices. It's always choice, like you said, but it's like sometimes we choose to put ourselves. I've chosen a couple of times to do things the hard way, or trying to be the protector, or like, for an example, it was one of my childhood friends, and she was maybe a year older than me, not even a whole year older than me. But we grew up kind of like, my father was messing with drugs, her mother and father was messing with drugs. So I would say, like, when we were like 10, 11, I used to talk to her, push her on the swings and stuff like that. But long story short, she was mixed. Her father was from Yemen. So she ended up, like, we was going to school, she just disappeared, like, in middle school. And then come to find out that she had been married off and all this stuff. So by the time she was 13, probably going on 14, she had a son and twin daughters.
Yeah, they start at a young age. They definitely do.
When I ran back into her later on, because she was covered and everything, so I might have seen her sometime, didn't even know who she was. But then I seen her sister one day, and I asked about her. And she was like, well, you can ask her. She lived right upstairs. So she had left the guy and had the son and the twins. The twins wasn't even one yet when I came into the picture. So I chose to come in the picture to be there with her to help her raise the children. And I wasn't nothing but like 17 myself, like 16 going on 17. Then she got pregnant by me with a son. And then I'm in and out the juvenile system because I'm committed to the state, but I'm trying to be there and help her. And then I'm back and forth from the juvenile. And then she ended up having the twins by me. So by the time we're like 18, 19, we have 2 sets of twin girls and 2 sons. And we're children, raising them, had some help from welfare, but I had to quit school because on welfare back then, they made the women start to get jobs or go to school or something like that in order to still get some type of help from them. So I let her go to school or get a job. She's working at Wendy's for a minute. I would be home with all of the children and stuff. But then when she get back from work, then it's my time to go out. But I can't go to school at nighttime. I did go to adult education for a minute, but that led me to going out in the streets doing different things. You know, that's a lot of children to raise as you're children yourself. Even if you're grown, that's a lot of children to raise or whatever. But I chose to put myself in that position. You know, I could have went back home anytime. I was in a 2-parent household. My father was on drugs, but my mother stood by him and, you know, put him in rehab, kept him strong to the point where he actually retired from Chrysler.
Did it break you or make you?
I believe it shaped me. I believe that God allowed me to go through certain things to make me stronger and for what my mission is. That's why I believe, not to say I have no trauma, I have a lot of trauma. I was shot in the neck and chest when I was 16. I done been stabbed. I done stuff and been through a lot of things that I survived. So
Yeah.
I believe, even like my case, I had a murder case and I came home. I'm here and I have my own business now. I'm doing different things. So I feel like, always felt that I would be an example of who not to be and what not to be like, or an example of change. And by the blessings of, you know what I'm saying, of the Most High, I'm more of an example of change, the things that you can do with your life.
And that's good.
Yeah, it is.
Commend you
It's
for it.
scary. It's scary, especially when you get shot at. I've been shot at before. It happened to me on 7 Mile recently. I moved to 7 Mile recently about a year and a half ago, and it was just like during the summer. It was just during the summer. I was walking down the street and everything, and I heard gunshots and everything. So, first thing that came up to my mind is get out the street and go back home. So while me walking back home, I'm over here walking fast and everything, and all I see is at the end of the street somebody just get out the car and start shooting. And ever since then, I'm not gonna lie, it was scary. It was scary. Ever since then, I told myself, I'm like, I gotta give me a piece. I gotta give me a piece, cause a lot of it's either gonna be I'm gonna end up dead, or I'm gonna end up getting wounded, or either way. So I recently this was about a couple days ago. I recently caught a charge with a CCW. I was at a Valero gas station on 7 Mile, and I was with a friend of mine and everything. We were walking to the gas station and to get a drink and some snacks. Walked out and seen a friend of mine and went to say hi to him, and we were just talking about like 7 Mile's been hot. Everything's been hot around the hood and everything. Next thing you know, I'm over here talking about the boys and everything. I look over the gas pump and I see them. They pull in the gas station, and as soon as they pulled up in the gas station, around that time, I had about like 65 grams of weed. I had about like 2 zips. I had 2 zips on me and everything, and I seen them. Went straight to the car, put it back in the car and everything, and they pulled right in the gas station. As soon as they pulled up in the gas station, I looked over. As soon as I got done putting it into the car, and then they came. They pointed at me like, "Come here, let me talk to you." I'm like, "I'm good. I don't want to talk." And he was like, "I just got a question for you. Come here. I just want to talk to you." I'm like, "I'm good, bro. I don't even want to talk to you." And he decided to get out the car and ask me if I had a CPF or he's like, "You got a CPF for that?" I'm like, "A CPF for what?" I had to run from him and ran from him. I ran down the street and from there stopped for the cop and everything, because just the day before that, there was a stabbing that happened outside the house, and it was a white guy ended up stabbing somebody. They pulled up to the street 10 cars deep. And
So they thought that you had did all of this, but you didn't really do it.
No, I did. They thought I did all that, but I didn't do none of that. And after that, it was a stabbing outside and everything, and the guy was hiding in our trash can when they arrested him and everything. So I told him, I'm like, I'm not even gonna run. I'm just gonna stop for them. And ever since, stopped for them, and they locked me up.
I have a question. So, you said you're in survival mode. Having that experience, what choices do you feel you have now to either stay in survival mode or to change your trajectory?
It really depends on the person. Like, if it was me, I'd change, and I'm working on that. I'm on the path of changing and everything, trying to stick to the right side and follow my dreams and follow my goals in life. I set some goals in my life and everything that I'm trying to achieve and everything. So yeah, I think you could change. You could get out of survival mode depending on your situation, depending on where you are and what mindset you have and what type of person you are. Because it depends on the person. It really depends on the person if you're deep in the streets or you're not deep in the streets. But you could get out of survival mode. There's choices to it.
I'm glad you talked about the deepness in the streets, cause if you can, try not to get in there where you can't get out.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I always, the first time I should have took the exit plan, I didn't, and ended up in prison. And you know, because you either going to prison, getting killed. So, you know, I was blessed enough to come out the streets. I think at your age, you still had the option of the prodigal son to return home.
That's true.
You know, but once you get older, you know what I look like going back home.
Yeah,
58 years old.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that
You're still young.
yeah, no, that the one thing I did, one of the worst things that I don't want happening is for me to end up getting in the wrong path and getting convicted as a felon. Because when you get convicted as a felon, it's no going back to it. Yeah, things get harder
Life
for you.
changes.
Life changes,
Drastic.
and you might just like, if depending on the mindset around that time, you might just stay in the streets, and that's one thing I don't want to do. I'm working on it. I want to get out of Detroit. I want to get out the environment and negativity and everything. Move out. Start like an actual life, because like I said, at a young age, you're in survival mode, and like there's a lot of achievements, and especially when you grew up to people talking down on you. You're not gonna make it. You're gonna be a failure. You're gonna be this. And you're gonna be that. It really motivates a person, especially
Strong will person,
yeah.
yes.
It motivates you. Go back and hits you the flashback, and it motivates you. Like, I know I could do this.
Yeah.
They don't believe in me, but I'm gonna show them.
At your
Yeah.
age, in the way that you talking, you really just gotta figure out exactly what you want to do, as far as a career and things of that nature. Because one thing that I get from you, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know your whole background. I think I was locked up with you. I think I was at Marquette or somewhere with you.
Yeah, I'm
But
at
we had talked
Marquette
about-
several times. Yeah.
But it's just like, it's a certain aura that comes with certain things or whatever. So it's still an innocence that's in you that I know I didn't have. And some of the stuff that he was doing, especially if he was out there robbing people, that takes a certain type of mindset too. But it's like, one of the things that you said that shows me a lot of the innocence that's still in you is when you heard the shooting. It's not a bad thing neither. This is something good. When you was like, you heard the shooting and it kind of had you, you know, because when I was your age, I was doing so much because I grew up around a lot of older people
Yeah,
and
same
was
here.
doing things. So it's like, my mindset was like, I always knew I was going to go to prison. I didn't know what for or for how long, but I was doing so much. I knew I was going to go to prison.
You
So
had the
that's
instinct.
already to have that mindset. As far as shootouts and stuff like that, my whole life was like a movie. Shootouts didn't, I wasn't
Common.
afraid of none of that. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Because that's like, that was just all a part of my life. All that type of stuff was normal or whatever. So for it not to be normal, that's right there showing something where you can change your life. You know what I'm saying? It's best to change it now instead of getting to that point where you become numb to certain things and stuff like that of that nature.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
And I'm going to say this, and some people may not agree. Sometimes you have to stay before you move. Because if you don't change your mind, as he just mentioned, your mindset, all you're doing is moving that mindset from one location to another location.
That's good.
It's like taking your dirty clothes and putting them all on, and you walking right past the laundromat. You're not doing anything.
You had the opportunity. You didn't take it.
So, because the truth is, there are a lot of people who can't pick up and go.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who can't go back to mom, dad, whatever. They have to deal with where they are, and that starts with, again, that self inventory, that evaluation, not only of who you are and where you are, but like you said, what do you want to do next? You want to be an entrepreneur? Okay, what entrepreneurial people, spirits can you be around? Whether it's church, whether it's go volunteer someplace, whether it's start your own lemonade stand. That may sound funny, but I just saw this little young boy on the news the other day. He's 12 years old and he raised $120,000 a lemonade stand. I felt like going to get me some lemons.
Yeah. I want to start up
Money
one.
selling Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have to figure out who you are and where you are so you'll know exactly what move to where you're going next. And you're not just aimlessly out there.
Yeah, cause right now, you know, you
What
at
does
a
it
good
mean when
spot.
you say you have to figure it out?
You had to figure out, like,
We should all have an index. The index should be personal, meaning our own inner self, our own inner thoughts, spirit. It should be community. Community can be family, it can be your church, it can be your school, and then it needs to have some spiritual, not religion, but spiritual component. And in each one of those, and whatever subset that is personal to you, there should be an inventory. Where am I now? Where do I want to get to? And the in between are the steps you need to make for whatever season you're in at that moment to get from A to B. And you keep moving and you keep moving and you keep moving until you reach where it is that you want to be. What I've heard tonight, especially the story from earlier, is, when we started this conversation, we talked about, I want to say, the negative side of survival. But the truth of the matter is, from the time that we are born, regardless of circumstance or situation, we're always in survival mode.
yeah.
And for a lot of us, we are born intentionally into a survival situation only because the things that we're supposed to learn along the way are the things that's going to propel us into greatness.
That's good.
And so there's some traumas you have to go through in order to be able to deal with wherever it is you are destined to be.
Yeah.
Now, is that for everyone? No. But I think for a great number of us, that is our true calling or testimony versus not. But that's where that inventory comes into play, so that you'll know where you are in your trajectory.
I think that a lot of my experiences granted me favor for, those situations I was in, because I seemed to overcome them and elevate in them. But I was always focused myself on making myself more knowledgeable about different situations so that I could be better prepared to deal with things coming up in my life, whether it was me learning law or just picking up skills and stuff like that. So those are always going to, cause knowledge is always valuable.
Yes.
And I always use the metaphor Book of Eli. They wanted him because they wanted the book, but they didn't know what the book was. But the thing is, when you get to a point where you become expendable because you don't know nothing, then you need to start realizing, well, if this happens, because if it was like post-apocalyptic, it's going to take the people that know how to do things to bring society back once all this computer stuff is gone. And if you don't know it, then you can't do it. So that might just be the chip that saved your life. You never know. But knowledge is power. So you can always lead without being in leadership as long as you got the knowledge. Because once you start saying what the law state, they got to abide by it. I didn't say it, this is what this say. So you say you believe in this, but you ain't following this. So that has helped me a lot. I ain't got to be out front. I'm leading in the back because I know what to say. And
Can
the
you-
people that don't.
Can you make healthy decisions in survival mode?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always make healthy decisions.
It's not always
in any mode.
negative.
Mm-hmm.
Not always negative. You could
Nah,
definitely
it
make
ain't
some
gotta
healthy
be
decisions.
Like I said earlier, we all have, like you see on the cartoons, one on one side, one on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
We all have that.
Angel and the devil's side.
And
Yeah.
we make the decision based on, again, what is easiest for us
Mm-hmm.
mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, whatever, in
That's
that
real.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
What I always ask people to do, and I do this myself, okay, this is the decision I've made. Stop, sit. I need to wait a minute to see if this is the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll move after I've made that decision. There's always time to decide which road you're going to take, even in survival mode.
That's good because a lot of us roll off impulse.
Most definitely.
And impulse ain't it's never good. I made some of my worst, mistakes on impulse without really thinking about it. So it's always good to think about a thing before you go off into it instead of just reacting.
And impulse comes off fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we should all understand. Am I making this decision out of fear? Or am I making this decision out of faith, confidence, or however you want to word it?
Mm-hmm.
But what is this decision based on?
Right. You most definitely.
Even when it comes down to something being impatient about. I tell my son all the time, okay, listen, breathe.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Breathe.
Take a woosah.
Ask yourself, A, do I already know the answer to this question?
Mm-hmm.
And B, am I actually going to lose it? Or do I just have to wait before I'm going to get it?
Mm-hmm.
Not in the form of debate, but just pointing out a different aspect of it. I wouldn't say that impulse is always bad,
Okay.
because impulse is also a form of instinct. But it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything that we have impulse for a reason, we have instinct for a reason, and part of that is survival too.
Mm-hmm.
Because something could happen to you, like a impulse could be something that's something hot coming your way and you move or
Moving,
something,
yeah.
anything.
That's good.
But what we do have to be able to is we have all these different feelings and emotions and stuff for a reason, but we do have to be able to rise above those emotions into a higher level of thinking, because you're gonna feel it,
Yeah.
but you have to be able to rise above it, not to allow those feelings just to act off of those feelings
Or basically take over.
in that moment, because your anger could be something, you can be upset, and if you let that anger control you, then that's controlling your will now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's leading you in the wrong direction. It
It's
could
never
be-
good.
if your lust is what's controlling you,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever else, your ego or whatever. We're gonna feel these things, but we have to be able to rise above them.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's very good.
So what does your teachings tell you on how to rise above emotions to a higher?
As far as my teachings,
Yeah.
I study some of everything, but one of the things that stood out to me when it comes to that, it's really the Bible, and also the study guides. It's actually study guide 18 in the Nation of Islam, called Rising Above Emotions into the Thinking of God, which it coincides with I forgot the exact scripture, but it's in Philippians, and it's let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But it also speaks in the study guide, like if you look at the Bible or the Quran, it speaks about God having the emotions and feelings, and it speaks on certain things, but it says the difference between us and God is God makes decisions that's based on for eons of time to come.
Mm.
So if we could just take a little bit of that and be able to rise above those emotions into a higher level of thinking, knowing the laws of cause and effect. If I do this, what's gonna happen after that.
Right.
If I allow, it could be no matter, it could be the lust and coming up with a baby that you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It could be cheating on your wife. It could be shooting this person or whatever that you could have really just walked away.
Away
You know you
from,
got the
yeah.
gun on you. You know he talking crazy, but sometimes you got to make an excuse for that person. He don't even know no better. So as long as they don't come and try to attack you, sometimes you can just leave that
Right.
situation. So we just have to be able to rise above those emotions. He getting on my nerves. I really want to pop him,
Right.
but as long as he's not a real threat, he's woofing.
Yeah,
Right,
Let
right,
me go
right,
on about
right.
my
No,
business. Now, if
exactly.
I'm trying to get in my car and now he's still trying to attack me or something,
That's a
then
whole
that's
different
something
story.
That's
you
a
know,
different story.
Then you have, that's when the impulse kick.
Right, right. Right. I've
know.
been there most definitely.
Yeah.
And like you said, self-control, I think is very important, because when we allow ourselves, I'd be more angry afterwards that I got out of my character or where I'm trying to be, especially in this day and age. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm not saying day and age, but at this time in my life, this stage, because I don't really want to be. I'm supposed to be representative of ambassador of Christ, so people should know that when they see me, instead of seeing me over here, because we in the camera age, everybody catching you at your worst when I'm supposed to use. And I think you said this, Robin. Be about what you talk about. Don't be representing this, and here
Not
you
that.
is over here fooling,
Yeah.
showing your butt. Nah. So we need to, I understand survival mode more than anybody, because I've had to survive. And I always say this: I don't fault a person for what they feel they got to do, but hopefully they make conscious decisions instead of just flying off the edge trying to survive.
It's still levels to what people do too. That it's like we don't necessarily supposed to judge, but some stuff I'm gonna judge, because that's like if you
Discernment.
it's a lot of things like
That's what
you could be going, you could rob a bank or rob an enemy or something like that, but if you sitting on praying on the old person who got their
Praying.
first of the
Yeah.
month check or something like that,
Right,
or
right. Most,
trying to always take from a week or something, that speaks volumes about your character.
yeah, yeah.
Says a lot
That's
about
it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
And I ain't got to the point where babies and old people, you don't mess with them. I hate to see somebody.
Yeah, that's the red line.
And I'll say something to somebody, and I know it's a bad day and age for that, because you can't always say something to people, because you don't know where people's minds is. Everybody, ain't there.
Yeah, but that's part of your job as a protector.
Teach.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you got to
Teach.
stand
Yeah,
for something. I
Teach.
always stood for something.
Yeah.
And even when I was in the streets, I stood for something. You know what I'm saying? Far as even getting locked up, being like in the county jail, when people being there trying to be the rock boss and
right.
picking
All that
on
old
people.
crazy stuff. Yeah,
They ain't never bothered me, but I used to find a way to snatch it out the air or something.
right,
So you ain't
Right.
around here, but I ain't want to be no rock boss or none of that. But it's like if you just around there just dogging people praying on the week, that's a problem.
yeah. That's
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Let me share this with you all. My one-time experience. I'm going to Wayne County. You go to Wayne County, when
jail.
they take you, arrest you. They take you to Wayne County, right?
I haven't been arrested in
I
Wayne
think when
County.
you get
Knock
arrested,
on
when you get
wood.
arrested, you have to go to jail. Jail is called Wayne County, right?
Yep.
But my one, because that's where the Rock is, right?
Yeah.
So my one time having this experience, going to jail. At the time, I was in the streets and I was hustling, but I think it was something minor. I think it was a traffic
Ticket or
ticket or
something.
something. Well, I don't know what it was, but I had to go. No, I don't know, it was something I can't remember so long
Right.
now. But
Probably a ticket.
when I got in there, when you go into the cell, what he called a rock, the girl that was running a rock was my customer, one of my customers.
One of the customs.
And when I came in, she was like, "What's up, sis? That's my dog. That's my dog." Don't tell him nothing about it.
right.
You want this, you want that, you got this.
Right.
I was
Hush
just
money.
laughing. I was laughing. I called when I made my call. I called with my friends. I said, "Guess who running the running the rice? We got all these people food."
See,
You know what I thought about when you
time
said
is
that
bigger than
though?
that though, because in prison, you can still get drugs in prison, but some of
yeah.
the people in prison would clean up, and it's like they
Mhm.
better off in prison because they
Right.
be making
Stay
money.
Yeah,
clean.
he was
Everything,
holding it
and
down.
Yeah.
Everybody was doing what
Yeah.
you tell them
You
to
see
do.
them on the streets. They at the gas station begging for change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's so
Yeah.
funny about what you said, first thing I thought about our producer that went in there and started being the rock boss.
No, my cousin was already in there. She
Right.
did it for me. She said
Right.
I was her sister, made sure I was good all the way through. I
That's
did
right.
my little next morning, it was gone. But yeah, survival mode. I wanted to really bring that up as a subject because we have a lot of young people that is in survival mode.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you this too, before we prepare for our close. How much of selfishness is inside survival mode, if any?
Oh,
It's
there's a lot.
100%.
It's 100%.
Because it's about you.
Uh,
It's good or bad. It's
Yeah.
about what you need to do for you to stay alive, and whatever that means, whatever context it is.
You against the
I
world.
think it's a balance to everything though, because that could be what you getting at too. Because survival mode, in some cases, is selfish, but in some cases, it's selfless. Because if you in
I
survival
think it's
mode
selfless.
to
Make sure your
feed
family good.
everyone else, then you're sacrificing yourself for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends on how you look at it. If you just out here robbing and stuff because you hungry,
All about
but
you.
but that is survival instinct or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying sometimes people would be comfortable doing whatever just for them or go and get. But sometimes you have to go the extra mile if you got other mouths to feed, or it could be your mother struggling to pay the bills and stuff, and you a child. Sometimes some of the children would go out there trying to get money. I know I did, to try to help replace the money in the household, or so my mother wouldn't have to worry about me, because I had a brother and sister and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends on the reasons why you doing what you doing. Or like I said, I put myself in a situation with a woman who already had a son and twin daughters, and we were children. So it all depends on. I believe it's a level. I believe just like you were saying about the angel and the devil on the side, I believe that it's a duality to all things. I feel like your strength and your weakness can be one and the same. I feel like the cipher is the middle of you look at the timeline, the zero that's in the middle, and you got the negative and the positive. Like that pool of infinite potential is in that circle, that cipher. But which way you going on that timeline?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's just a different perspective though, but I believe that's one of the good things about having these type of discussions, because it's many ways to look at it.
Yeah.
You know what
A
I'm
lot
saying?
of ways.
So when you were saying that, I think the selfishness come in with the greed, because I believe I've always believed it's enough out here for everybody
That's
to
true.
make money without having to, shoot you cause you down the street or whatever doing what you're doing.
Yeah. See, I've never, me personally, I ain't gonna go all off into my past,
Right.
like on certain stuff, but I've never been a thief. Even when I was hustling, I done a lot of different stuff, but
Right.
for the most part, I probably grew up, I would say, selling more weed than
Right.
Yeah.
cocaine and stuff. I did at one time,
Right.
but even then, I still wasn't beefing over a bunch of nonsense and stuff.
Yeah,
If
that's
I
what
ever
they're
got
doing
into any
nowadays.
type of gunplay, it's because I was protecting somebody else or protecting
Right.
myself.
Self,
I did
yep.
get mixed up and stuff trying to protect people. I've always been a protector.
Yeah. That's how I
You
was. And the thing is, I don't know if it was easier for people with siblings that was in the house with them, because of course I got half of stepbrothers and sisters, but it seemed like, they're more close knit and tighter when they have a sibling, caring for them in the absence of whatever reason the mother and father. We know why the fathers ain't there most, but when the mothers ain't there and one of the siblings got to step up for everybody because they don't want to see the family split up. I think that's just a beautiful bond, and I commend any sibling that do that. You know what I mean?
So are we saying that in life, survival mode is just the norm?
Yeah, it is. It is most
I
definitely.
repeat that again.
Are we saying in life is survival mode just the norm?
It depends
Yeah.
on.
Self-preservation is
Depends on
survival
your-
mode.
Yeah, it still depends on like. It depends on your upbringing. It depends on your family structure, because some people got a silver spoon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so they don't really have to go through those things. They might at some
Right.
point, but some people, if they haven't had no form of going through certain things and struggles and stuff like that, if that safety net or whatever is not there, that'd be some of the people who
Never
that
be able to make
might
it.
even take their own life or go downhill
Yeah.
without that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
because in my personal life, it's a difference.
Yeah.
Self-preservation is something that you have. For me, it's for my courage. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a preserve and survive. But I didn't have to experience, like he said, I didn't have to experience survival mode until I lost my parents and different people to make sure that I was straight. And and when you have that, you don't realize that you have it until you lose it. So a survival mode came from me. I was like, okay, wait a minute, the last person gone, I ain't got nobody to go to, of course with God, but here, so I got to make this thing happen myself. And when I say that, I mean they had your back. You knew if you slipped
That
that you
was
can go
there.
and say, hey, can I get some thousands? Can I get some thousands? You know what I'm saying? It's totally different when you ain't got
Nobody.
nobody.
Yeah,
You
it
know what I'm
is.
saying? And so then that's when you have to say, hey, I got to survive. Now, I agree with Rico when he says it could be a negative and it could be a
positive.
positive. For me, it was a positive because it made me become the woman I am and strengthened me. And then it's a negative for me too, because in my journey, it caused me to have to be strong, and it intimidated a lot of men. And a woman still want to be a woman, even
Right.
though she have to be strong.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so it has its good and it has its bad. Yeah.
I think that I don't want to say all of us, but I do believe those who seek independence, whether you have money or you don't have any money, when you begin your journey of seeking independence in whatever form that looks like for you, you go through some form of survival mode. Now, it may be
Yeah.
minimal, it may be a lot, but you go through some form of survival mode, because in that it's going to challenge you who you're going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this entire thing, at least one of my takeaways is: who are we choosing to be, based on where we've been, what we've gone through? Who are we choosing to be?
Right. Right.
And I think that's going to apply to everyone.
It's true.
A1.
Well, I guess we can how far?
Been on an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, so this last 10 minutes of don't talk at me, talk to me, having real conversations, real solutions. One of the things that Coach said, Coach Dwayne said that in order to not stay in survival mode and to heal, you have to first do a self-assessment.
Yeah.
And I think the scripture says, examine ourselves daily. And I think Rico said it excellent when he said, say it again, Rico,
What part you talking about?
your higher self, till you
Rising above emotions to the thinking of God.
rising above emotions to the thinking of God. So when you think like God, you will make better
overcome your-
decisions. Yeah. So
What them bracelets be saying? What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
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 Right. When you think above, yeah. So the main thing that I heard in all that is that you have a choice to think, and so you can
That's
think
good.
to do something good for yourself and something bad for yourself. And my grandmother always told me is count the costs. I'm saying you got when anybody that does something, you don't
Gotta
just
figure out
do
the
it. You look at
cost.
you look at what could possibly happen, good or bad,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
make the decision from there. Um, um, what would be some closing things that you would want to say, Dwayne, as we leave?
There are options. In survival mode, there are options. Always assess what your options are. And one of those options should always be, who can I talk to?
That's good.
That's good. That's one
Very good.
Yeah.
valid point.
Rico, what would be one of your closing things you would like to say on survival mode?
Yeah, make your next move your best move.
Make your next move, you best move.
No,
That's
use
good.
use your brain. You have to use your brain, and you have to learn from each experience. And also sometimes you just gotta observe, because you need to learn from your surroundings. So certain mistakes that you won't make. You know.
Okay. A1.
You are who you hang around with. Observe your people. See, are they good? Are they bad? Where are you gonna be in 5 years hanging around with these people? Can these people benefit you? Can these people help you?
With that being said, what do you think about the environment you in now? A1 works for my business. He's our social media manager. I took on him and two other seniors right before graduation, so they can get them some extras, and I hopefully when they graduate still be with me. It's an amazing journey. I learn something from them each and every day, even though they get on my nerves. But they're awesome. They're awesome. They're awesome. A1, what would you say to some young people that's out there that's in survival mode right with you?
Stay dangerous. Stay out of trouble and make right choices. Definitely that. Make the right choices, and you'll be straight. And peak your circle. Peak your circle and check around, because you might not know it. You might not know it the whole time you have a snake in your circle, and that might mess up your future. And just make the right choices, because one wrong move can mess it all up.
Beautiful. Wow. And close us out.
Yeah, I want to say this to you, young brother. I want to commend you personally, because you keep staying in school, and it's hard doing that when you on the streets, because a lot of people would have just gave up. You still on track to graduate, so that's commendable. Because a lot of
Appreciate
people
it.
would be like, man, just forget this. I ain't got no time for school. So I want to most definitely applaud him for that. We about to close out. I understand everybody got to survive. So, like, if you had the opportunity to go back home and you still young enough to do that or got somewhere to go to get help, then I highly recommend that you get it. Because sometimes our pride will stop us from going to reach out to get help. Sometimes our pride will stop us from going back saying, Mom, Dad, I was wrong or whatever. Everybody have an agenda for the way they run their castle, for lack of a better term. So don't be afraid if you're young out there and you trying to survive and got the opportunity to go home while you got the chance. Don't let pride get in your way from going home, because it's only a few things can happen in the streets. either death or prison. And I don't want to see neither one of y'all on that. And neither does anybody on the podcast. We get ready to close. This is Talk At Me. Don't talk at me, talk to me. And we out.
Nothing, that's the time to feel alive. I'm an animal. Everything is tangible, easily programmable. I need all of the resources and valuables. The appetite of Hannibal, you know the vocals flammable. You might not want to stand too close, they keep you in survival mode. The bottom of the totem pole, this is the human holocaust. Some of us, we chose to fall, some of us don't know it all. Trying to find my way home, I'm picking up the phone to call. Tell me what the mission is, I gotta master all my flaws. Tell us how you walk the walk, you know you never learn to crawl. Look at the reflection in the mirror, getting close to God.